So I want to present a model here that's drawn from the world of chronic pain and mindfulness, but that I think applies very well to working or using mindfulness to work with our tinnitus. It comes from the work of Vijayamala Birch, who's done a lot of work, written books, and has a whole organization devoted to working using mindfulness to work with chronic pain. And as I said, this model I think translates very well to the world of tinnitus, and I'll explain how that is. And this is also to be used in conjunction with a meditation I'm posting called the Turning Towards Tinnitus meditation. A little background on the similarities. As I said, there is a significant amount of research on the similarities between chronic pain and tinnitus. And here's a little quote from an article. I'll put a link to it called Similarities Between Chronic Pain and Tinnitus. The similarities between tinnitus and chronic pain have been discussed for some time. Both are abnormal and variable subjective sensations, often linked to, but not sufficiently explained by, an internal peripheral lesion. Owing to the absence of an external physical stimulus, they are often referred to as phantom sensations, even though they are very real experiences. Tinnitus and chronic pain are frequently associated with hypersensitivity to sensory stimulation. Moreover, patients suffering from these two conditions often share the same psychological profile with an increased tendency to anxiety, fatigue, and depression, which seems to vary in lockstep with the sensory disorder. In fact, depression is ranked as one of the strongest predictors for low back pain, and intensity of back pain correlates with severity of depression. Similarly, patients identified with depression or anxiety disorder at the outset of tinnitus are more likely to develop severe incapacitating tinnitus. Finally, some data suggests that there is a tendency for increased tinnitus prevalence in chronic pain patients. So there is a history of connecting chronic pain and tinnitus, and if you just think about them, actually, you can recognize the similarities. These are two conditions about which at some point we reach medical science has an inability to do anything about. Tinnitus, it's obvious. With chronic pain, it reaches a point where medication either can't touch it, or the medication has so many side effects you don't want to use the medication. So you have to find some way to work with a condition that is inherently unpleasant, be it chronic pain or tinnitus. We also know mindfulness has been used successfully in working with both conditions, and we also know it has a similarity in that mindfulness does not touch the pain itself. There is not a sense of the reported pain going down, but it does relieve other symptoms that are very effective. And in the same way, mindfulness does not impact the sound of the tinnitus. Nothing can do that. But we know in the same way from, again, research studies, mindfulness does reduce tinnitus distress. So this model, which is said is drawn from the world of chronic pain, is one I think we can apply to work with our tinnitus, and urge you to do this in conjunction with the meditation I'm going to be posting alongside of it. So this is from, again, Vijayamala Birch. I'll put the link to her work that this is drawn from in the notes for this session. So she begins, now that you have a sense of the dimension of mindfulness, it's time to explore how to develop it, as mindfulness is a way of living that's cultivated by practice. Few people live with continual awareness. So for most of us, mindfulness training means becoming aware once you're already distracted. You'll probably find yourself caught up in distraction hundreds of times a day, but choosing awareness, even once, is a victory, no matter how fleeting the moment may be. It's a step in retraining yourself after years of unhelpful, habitual behavior. In time, awareness itself becomes a habit. Mindfulness practice is like any other training. If you want to become an athlete, you need to develop certain muscles so you can run with ease. To cultivate mindfulness, you must train your awareness so that it becomes an increasingly reliable source of strength and stability. This chapter describes 5 steps or progressive stages in developing mindfulness that offer a realistic and sustainable approach to practice for those of us living with pain and illness. And you can include tinnitus every time you hear pain in this article, and you won't miss a beat. I have included, those of us living with pain and illness. So let's start on the 5-step process. Step 1, awareness. The first step in developing mindfulness is simply to become more familiar with what's actually happening in each moment. For example, you can become aware of your breath, of your body as you sit, walk, stand, or lie down, and of your sensations, pleasant or painful. You can notice your thoughts and emotions as discrete aspects of your experience, instead of over-identifying with them. You can become more aware of other people and the world around you. You might suddenly notice little things, such as the sensation of the sun on your skin, the taste of an orange, or the greenness of the grass on a summer's day. Becoming more aware can be like moving from a 2-dimensional black and white world to one that has dimensions and is saturated with color. Step 2, move toward the unpleasant. The second step, moving toward the unpleasant aspects of experience, is deeply counterintuitive and probably comes as a surprise. It may even sound masochistic. In fact, facing pain is essential because those of us with chronic pain usually resist it through trying to block the pain out or else drowning in it. In neither case do we really see the pain for what it is. And again, put tinnitus in there and it doesn't miss a beat. When you first turn your attention to painful sensations, you may be more aware of your resistance than of the pain itself. But you can work with this by gently leaning into the resistance with your awareness and using your breath to drop your awareness more deeply into your body. You can breathe in with a sense of awareness and breathe out with a sense of letting go. Over time, you can learn to adopt a kindly, non-judgmental attitude to the whole of your experience and allow painful sensations simply to be present. You can develop a caring attitude toward your pain, like that of a natural impulse of a mother to gather a child who is hurt into her arms and hold him or her tenderly. Even though she can't remove the child's pain, her loving response will ease his or her distress. Step 3, seeking the pleasant. The third step in developing mindfulness, in fact, grows naturally out of the second. But it may seem even more surprising. It involves becoming sensitive to the pleasant elements of your experience. Hardening against pain also shuts out the pleasurable side of life, and we lose the sensitivity that allows us to feel vibrantly alive and experience pleasure and love. You might not feel the pain so much, but you'll numb yourself to other people, the beauty of nature, or the simple pleasure of the body's warmth while sitting in the sun. When I've been most able to be with my pain as a changing dynamic experience, I've also been most in touch with the poignancy and subtlety of the human condition, and most able to appreciate the world around me. As you develop a more straightforward relationship with pain, you make the surprising discovery that there's always something pleasant, even beautiful in your experience when you look for it. Everyone I've worked with, even those suffering severe pain, have found something pleasant to focus on. And for those of us living with chronic pain or illness, this can be a revelation. Seeking the pleasant is like being an explorer searching for a hidden treasure. It might be as simple as noting the warmth of your hands or a pleasant feeling in the belly, or seeing a shaft of sunlight streaming through the window. If you're in the hospital, it could be the smell of flowers by your bed or the pleasure of being with someone you love. Maybe you notice the way their eyes crinkle when they smile, or the quality of their touch as they hold your hand. As I become more mindful, I'm much more attuned to the subtleties of my sensations. I notice how my hair feels against my forehead when I meditate with my eyes closed. I notice the contact between my eyes and eyelids. Through such sensitivity, the present moment becomes richer, more multifaceted, and more alive. Step 3. Oh, that was step 3. All right. We're going to move on. Step 4. Step 4. Broadening awareness to become the bigger container. In the 4th step, you broaden your awareness to include both the pleasant and unpleasant aspects of your experience, like switching from a focused to a wide-angle lens. In this stage, rather than focusing closely on sensations of pain or pleasure, you become aware of the diverse aspects of each moment as they come into being and pass away, without automatically pushing the unpleasant or clinging to the pleasant. Practicing mindfulness isn't about escaping difficulty. It's about holding the whole of experience in a wider perspective with equanimity and depth. The Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck calls this state becoming a bigger container. Often you feel too small to accommodate what happens, as if you are a restrictive, narrow container. That causes stress. But if you feel yourself to be a bigger container, you can manage whatever happens and maintain perspective with a deep sense of inner spaciousness. Ultimately, the container may be limitless and allow a sense of space, freedom, and stability. If you put a teaspoon of salt in a small glass of water, it will have a strong taste. But if you add the same amount of salt to a lake, the water will be largely unaffected. With mindfulness, you can become like a deep and clear lake. Individual experiences don't overwhelm you, and you can remain steady through life's ups and downs while being honest about what's happening. It's a huge relief to accept the whole of your experience. It allows you to relax much more deeply. When you experience the sensations of your body right here, right now, whatever they may be, you can rest within it, setting your awareness in the stability of the belly rather than identifying with the anxious thoughts in your head about your pain or illness. Truly settling in the body feels like coming home. Step 5. Learning to respond rather than react. With this wider perspective, you can move on to the 5th step, choosing to respond rather than react to your experiences, especially when they include difficulties. The sense that you have of the freedom to choose how to respond is the heart of mindfulness practice. In a sense, each of the 5 steps involves choice. You choose to start noticing your experience rather than avoiding it, to move towards the painful and seek out the pleasant aspects, and to broaden out your awareness. These stages tease apart the different aspects of experience, helping you distinguish between primary suffering, the actual painful or unpleasant sensations, and secondary suffering, which springs from your resistance to them. This creates a sense of spaciousness, as if you're a bigger container. Rather than feeling your pain is right on top of you and you've trapped in a battle that leaves no space to choose your response, You can find ways to respond creatively to any circumstances with a soft and pliant heart. The previous steps of mindfulness prepare the way for you to act with initiative and confidence. When life is approached in this way with mindfulness, it can be a stream of choices and creative possibilities instead of continuous distraction and resistance. So this, as I said, applies to chronic pain and to tinnitus. And this is not just a theoretical explanation, although we're going to do a meditation called the Turning Towards Tinnitus meditation, in which we're going to go through stages 2, 3, and 4. But the goal of going through these stages is to kind of prepare and educate ourselves to bring these stages into our everyday life. So I hope you find this useful.